It's Wednesday, July 23rd. This is CTV at 6. Here's what's making news tonight. A failed engine repair sparked a fire aboard a PEI ferry. A holiday hotspot finds new life after being battered by a tropical storm.
It's July heat for the Maritimes Thursday, and then after that, showers approach Friday.
Live from our Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News at 6. Here is Todd Battis.
Good evening. We learned today a failed engine repair was responsible for the fire that burned a Northumberland ferry 3 years ago. MV Holiday Island was knocked out of service and ultimately shipped to the scrapyard. The incident has prompted the Transportation Safety Board to launch an investigation into other ship fires. Josh Smith reports from Charlottetown.
The MV Holiday Island will never sail again. It was recently taken apart at a maritime scrapyard. Today, the Transportation Safety Board of Canada released the results of their investigation into the fire on board the vessel back in 2022.
On the day of the occurrence, a temporary repair installed the day before failed, resulting in fuel spraying onto hot engine components, igniting the fire.
Prior to the fire, maintenance crews used non-standard methods to patch up the ferry's fuel injection system while the replacement parts were on order.
These were not the materials that they should have been using, but these were the materials they had available.
The fire wasn't put out initially because the CO2 suppression systems weren't fully operational.
By the time they realized, something was not working, then they were able to release it, but it was already very late and the fire had, progressed.
Up until that fateful day in 2022, the MV Holiday Island carried passengers in the Northumberland Strait for over 50 years. But transportation officials say the age of the ship played no factor in this incident.
How it's operated, how it's maintained, the training of the crew, the operation procedures all play a much bigger role than just the age.
The other key findings in the report was a lack of clarity of the safety measures amongst the ship's crew and a discrepancy of the number of passengers aboard the vessel at the time.
In response to the report, Northumberland Ferries Limited said since 2022, they have taken steps to avoid similar problems in the future. These actions included enhancing our emergency training, revising and updating procedures, and strengthening operational protocols. We recognize that there is still more to do, and we will work with Transport Canada to ensure that the report's findings are implemented in a timely and effective fashion. The Transportation Safety Board have investigated 400 fires on board passenger ferries in the past 10 years in Canada, and they hope to learn how they can improve ferry transportation in the future. Josh Smith, CTV News, Charlottetown.
A good deal is more important than meeting a deadline. That's the message premiers are taking home after meetings in Ontario's cottage country. Like their counterparts, maritime premiers are hopeful for a deal with the U.S., but warn tariffs are likely. Here's our Nick Moore.
The third and final day of the Premier's meeting in Ontario began with news out of Japan from the night before that the country had struck a new trade agreement with the U.S., which includes a 15% tariff, down from the 25% tariff that Donald Trump initially threatened. As the premiers and prime minister come out of this week's meetings looking at an August 1st deadline for striking their own U.S. trade deal, a united message.
There are worse deals out there, and there's a possibility there's always a possibility for this to go sour. So I think the premiers gave the prime minister the reassurance that we want the best deal possible. We have his back. We don't want him to take a deal that isn't good for New Brunswick or for Canada because of a deadline.
Prime Minister Mark Carney has shifted the goalpost in the trade talks from getting a tariff-free deal to now getting the best deal possible.
We are looking for the best deal for Canada. We're only going to accept the best deal for Canada.
We'll take stock if there isn't one that works. A good deal is something that preserves, reinforces, and stabilizes those relationships as much as possible. A good deal is also one that doesn't tie our hands.
It was a message supported by several premiers who spoke up at this afternoon's closing news conference, including Ontario Premier Doug Ford, who chaired the meetings.
With the United Team Canada approach, we're going to build and protect the true North strong and free.
We're not going to just accept any deal.
Former New Brunswick Premier Brian Gallant says Canada absolutely needs the U.S., but shouldn't forget that tariffs would cause economic pain on the other side of the border, too.
To see the premiers and the Prime Minister stay united, despite the fact that there are many political parties represented in the group of 14. So I think that's the number one outcome from these meetings. And I think it's also putting Canadians on notice that indeed we may have some more uncertainty.
If a trade deal is not achieved in 9 days, Donald Trump is threatening a tariff of 35% on Canada. Nick Moore, CTV News, Fredericton.
We also heard a lot about big energy projects during that series of meetings, and the term Wind West was mentioned several times. It's a big project, high on the wish list for maritime premiers. But what exactly is it? And when could we see something? We had CTV's Jonathan McGinnis look into it.
Nova Scotia is looking to become one of the major energy providers in the country.
We have onshore, but our offshore winds are first class. They're world class, and they could be producing enough power to support much of Canada.
As much as 25%, in fact, if the province's Wind West project gets off the ground. Nova Scotia is hoping to have offshore wind turbines producing 5 gigawatts of electricity, but the energy minister thinks the output could be much more.
They have the potential to produce 66 gigawatts of power. So with that in mind, Nova Scotia uses 2.4 gigawatts at its coldest day of the year.
It's understood it will be a couple years before we see turbines standing in the ocean. Then power would move by cable throughout the country and possibly to Europe. One environmental group is on board but watching closely.
Ultimately, we're very much in favor of building a transmission line, and we're in favor of building out offshore wind, but the devil is in the details when it comes to building offshore wind.
The caveat being that appropriate consultations are held before the project moves forward.
Are we making sure that we are engaging, fishing communities, Indigenous communities that rely on the fishing economy at the earliest stages of project development?
For now, Premier Tim Houston is attending meetings with other premiers and the Prime Minister to gather support for the project.
We all see the opportunities that we have before us to make for a stronger country, and we're all pushing in that direction.
5 areas have been highlighted for potential wind farm development. 4 are off the province's eastern shore. The other is off Cape Breton. Jonathan McGinnis, CTV News, Halifax.
Coming up later in the show, we'll be joined by New Brunswick Premier Susan Holt from Muskoka. That's after 6:30. And if you want to read more about the meetings, we have a lot of reporting at ctvnewsatlantic.ca. An investigation continues into a fire that burned a bicycle shop in Halifax earlier this week. The e-bike retailer filled with smoke. Electric battery fires are particularly hard to put out. CTV's Hafsa Arif has more.
They're quick, convenient, and more popular than ever. E-bikes and e-scooters have become part of a daily commute. But the recent fire at a Halifax store is raising concerns over battery-powered travel.
Around 850 residents phoned in, probably from the same building, to confirm they could smell smoke.
It took fire crews roughly 30 minutes to put out the fire, an unusually long time for a commercial fire of this scale.
Lithium-ion batteries are extremely difficult to extinguish. Once they start and they go into this thermal runaway, they require copious amounts of water, and a lot of times it's more water than we have on board our fire trucks.
And there's no way around it. Those batteries are how electric devices operate.
The resources required to fight a battery fire in a vehicle are greater than that of a regular combustion engine. Generally, we are going to need multiple tankers.
Lithium-ion batteries are almost everywhere, in your phone, your tablet, e-scooters, e-bikes, and electric vehicles. And the bigger the device, the larger the battery, which can increase the risk if something goes wrong.
Some of this is attributed to the improper use of non-OEM chargers. So a charger gets damaged, somebody just buys another charger offline.
Across Canada, cities are already seeing a rise in battery-related fires, especially as they become more common. And while the fire here is still under investigation, firefighters say Halifax needs to be proactive.
The city has to take a look at our bylaws and what we allow that folks to bring into their homes, especially in multi-unit buildings, in residential buildings.
Time is of the essence, say firefighters, and battery safety needs to be part of the conversations. Hafsa Arif, CTV News, Halifax.
There's a look at downtown Fredericton right now. Officers Square, beautiful 25 degrees in the summer evening. Let's bring in Kaylin Mitchell in the CTV Weather Center, and this is one of these days you'd like to be doing the weather on the deck, no doubt.
Yeah, I saw a skilled rollerblader out there just making his way quickly across that video from Fredericton. Yeah, it's great deck weather today. As we take a look at temperatures, as we're moving into the first part of this evening, we can see that they're mostly sitting around the mid-20s with some exceptions, but those exceptions mostly for some coastal areas. No surprise there. Winds right now are generally light and out of the southwest and mostly being sustained between 10 and 20 kilometers per hour. We remain in a general southwest wind for both tonight and for tomorrow. On the satellite radar picture, actually might be a very low chance of a couple spotty showers just drifting towards the northwestern corner of New Brunswick. Otherwise, a few clouds expected to be around tonight and some fog patches developing. There are going to be some showers to become more widespread for the Maritimes on Friday of this week. That developing weather system, though, is so far still off towards the west. We know we have been dry this month here in the Maritimes, so any wet weather that we can get will certainly be welcome. Here's an outlook into that round of showers through the end of this week. So along with that low chance of a couple showers around the northwest of New Brunswick tonight, during the day tomorrow, the afternoon, evening hours, there will also be a chance of showers in that part of the Maritimes with the risk of some thunderstorms. Then Friday is when we see that round of showers kind of develop morning into afternoon for New Brunswick. Still a risk of thunderstorms with it. Reaching Prince Edward Island, it looks like Friday afternoon or Friday evening, and most of the showers look like they'll hold off until Friday evening and Friday night for the province of Nova Scotia. Todd, much like the last weather system that went through Sunday into Monday, many areas could finish with only a few to several millimeters of rain out of this one. Maybe with some localized amounts that get a little bit higher, that 10 to 30 millimeter rain.
Yeah, I think people would like a little more.
Yeah.
Looking dry. Thank you. We'll get back to you in about 15 minutes. There's good news for Haligonians dealing with those stinky compost green bins as weekly pickup has returned. Normally that begins at the start of July, but council opted to go to a bi-weekly pickup until this week as a way to save money. Councillor David Hensby said cutting back the service over 5 weeks saved about $420,000. That shakes down to about $1.39 on the average household tax bill. But he says the warm weather created a stink and some wildlife issues.
The maggots and fly issues is one thing, but I'm more concerned about the bears and raccoons. You know, I don't want to see the wildlife to get too close to the residents and stuff, especially with pets and small children around. You never know how they may react.
I think in my area, at least our adjacent neighbors have kind of locked down their green bin, but the bears will sometimes take them into the road regardless.
Councillor Hensby says the city will likely have a second look at this and could look at bringing back the full service from the start of July until the end of September next year. Weekly pickup this year runs until mid-September before returning to the bi-weekly schedule. Now to a story about a troubled bridge over water. One of New Brunswick's few covered bridges is closed and might not reopen. As CTV's Derek Haggett explains, it's a practical and personal loss for neighbors.
The Poirier Covered Bridge in Notre Dame has been closed to traffic now for 3 weeks. The province says they had to close the 83-year-old structure because of its deteriorating condition.
It's unbelievable the amount of people that take wedding pictures, graduation pictures with the covered bridge. We've talked to the government and they say they don't know yet what they're going to do with it.
Options for the wooden bridge, which is located about a half an hour north of Moncton, are under review, but there's no concrete plans.
We need some answers about what they're going to do with the bridge, whether they're going to rebuild it or if they're going to replace this or fix it.
Road closure signs have been thrown in a nearby ditch, and the concrete slabs used as a roadblock have been shifted so that vehicles can cross it. This man has a sawmill and maple sugar shack a few kilometers away, but now has to take a detour to get there.
Like I got to go all the way around. It gives me 40 kilometers a day, and I'm here 6 days a week. So in a week, it gives me 240 kilometers extra. I mean, the wear and tear on my truck, plus the fuel.
2 other covered bridges in southeast New Brunswick have been torn down this year. There was once 343 wooden structures in the province, but only 57 remain.
Right now, they're not even saying if they're going to fix it, if they're going to replace it, or if they're going to tear it down altogether and have their road closure completely.
The province says they're aware of the discarded barricades and will soon be installing guardrails on both sides of the bridge in the interest of public safety. Derek Haggett, CTV News, Notre Dame, New Brunswick.
Get the Maritime's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
What's the fastest growing neighborhood in Halifax? How many people call the city home? Are wages growing? The answers to these and many other questions are contained in the just released Halifax Index. We had CTV's Vanessa Wright dig into the data.
The verdict is in about how Halifax as a city has fared through the past year. It's being judged by several factors, including the economy, affordability, and real estate. One of the main authors of the Halifax Index 2025 report says things have been moderate compared to previous years.
Inflation rate came down to more normal levels. Vacancy rates eased a bit. Market got a little softer. Rents didn't increase as fast. So it was just that sort of general getting a little bit back more towards normal. I think that really stuck out last year.
Population was a key factor in the report. In 2024, Halifax had a population of more than 500,000 people, adding almost 12,000 more over the past year. Last year also saw over 26,000 international migrants, 10,000 of which held temporary work permits, and study permit holders of more than 5,600.
I personally feel really great about it. I think it is really great for Halifax as a city to grow, and it brings a lot of economic value to our city, and I am here for the population growth.
But while most agree with that statement, many Haligonians also feel strongly about how the city has adjusted to the growth.
It's frustrating, the population growth. It has a lot of positives as well, but I think it's the rise of rent and just cost of living it's kind of outpaced like the wages that people make here and whatnot.
Obviously the downside that everybody talks about is the infrastructure and vehicles on the road. In my opinion, there's a very simple solution to that, which is for us to divert the money that we're spending on certain projects, I won't say.
And while the report indicates Halifax gained a 6% increase in per capita income last year, many say it certainly hasn't felt like it.
I came in Halifax in 2020, and it was really good at that time. Even grocery prices were good, rent prices were good. But now in 2025, I feel it's insane right now.
Now, one thing that hasn't been put into this report is the impact of U.S. tariffs, and that has led to business confidence falling to its lowest level since 2015. Todd, back to you.
Vanessa, you had a lot of people speaking in your story there, some very eloquent comments. It seemed like nobody had any issues speaking up about this.
No, nobody had any issues. A lot of people were for, growing population in the city. The only thing they want to see is the city better address it, adding better transit, and, just making sure that people have access to, systems that they can use to better themselves.
Things we'll be talking about for quite a while. Vanessa Wright in downtown Halifax. Thank you.
Probably.
Yeah. We'll take our first break. Still to come, a milder night with a few clouds. Kaylin has the forecast. But next, reopening an historic showpiece.
The roofs actually blew off completely.
Fiona ripped apart Pictou Lodge 3 years ago. Now it's repaired, renovated, and ready for visitors. We're going to take you there next. Movie stars like Clark Gable and Carol Lombard were just 2 celebrity guests at Pictou Lodge during its 100-year history. Tropical storm Fiona shut it down a couple of years ago, but now the Timber Lodge and cabins are repaired and ready for another century of visitors. CTV's Stephanie Seco's got a look.
For the first time in years, Pictou Lodge is open for the season.
To have the business back up and running, it's exciting. This is something we want to keep in our family, hopefully for a long, long time, maybe even generations. So to have the opportunity to do this, we're going to make sure that we do things right.
Brad Hartland and his brother bought the property earlier this year.
One of the big things that we wanted to do was make sure that we had the staff that was here previously, because without them, we wouldn't be able to do it. The roofs actually blew off completely.
It's been a busy few months of replacing roofs, floors, and just doing general repairs.
It just shines in there. The place is spotless, and we couldn't be happier. We're still working on 2 of the older units that will be ready for 2026.
Pictou Lodge was badly damaged by post-tropical storm Fiona in 2022. The previous owners had planned to reopen, but it ultimately closed completely in 2023.
There's a devastated feeling here in the community, not just because of the history and the importance of the lodge historically, but from a tourist perspective.
While the lodge has only just reopened and there are fewer rooms than before, bookings have been rolling in.
I think we're at about a 75% occupancy right now, which, again, going into this is our first venture. We didn't really know exactly what was going to transpire.
Pictou Lodge first opened in 1926, and Heartland is excited to be part of its next chapter.
There's been so many people that have been part of the lodge. I go back to some of the stories, like Babe Ruth stayed here, which to me, being a sports fanatic like I am, just adds even more character to the space.
Next year, Pictou Lodge will celebrate its 100th anniversary, a time to reflect on all of the changes throughout the years and the milestones still to come. Stephanie Seco, CTV News, Pictou, Nova Scotia.
And it's good to see it back. Still to come, except for the coast, it's a hot July day tomorrow. How hot? Caleb Mitchell will tell us after the break. Hunter River in the Glasgow PEI. It's one of the prettiest little hamlets in the Maritimes, especially this time of year. Glad to get that picture on tonight, and a perfect summer day.
Yeah, I'm happy to see that it's looking green there on the riverbanks.
And full.
Yeah, we do know that this month has been dry. Hopefully that's not causing too many issues around the region, though. We do have a little bit of wet weather coming up in our forecast, which we'll get to in a moment. Let's take a look at some weather conditions, though, across the country. And looking at 17 degrees in Victoria at this hour, 24 at both Vancouver and Prince George, with some sunshine being reported. Calgary out of the rain now and up to 22 degrees. Saskatoon sitting at 19. Winnipeg at 24. Heat and humidity is really built up through parts of southern Ontario and southern Quebec, though. Windsor right now sitting at 29 degrees, 27 at Toronto, but there's some heat warnings in effect, 28 at Toronto and 26 at Montreal. Very comfortable temperatures this evening for the Maritime region, with Fredericton at 25 and Halifax and Charlottetown both at 24 degrees. A little bit cooler at St. John's and Newfoundland, sitting at 17. Taking a look at our forecast timeline for cloud cover and precipitation as we make our way through tonight, there will be a few clouds that drift through. There'll be some fog patches that'll be developing. A few areas where fog is more likely to develop tonight includes parts of the Bay of Fundy coastline in New Brunswick, as well as around the southwestern coastline of Nova Scotia. That fog will be dissipating as we make our way from Thursday morning into Thursday afternoon, which is going to feature a mix of sun and cloud around the region, but with a chance of a couple of spotty showers or thunderstorms developing and moving into northern areas of New Brunswick. And that chance of a shower or thunderstorm in the north of New Brunswick will extend into Thursday evening. So a little bit of weather awareness needed there late in the day for areas from Edmundston across to Campbellton, Bathurst, and the Acadian Peninsula. Taking a look at winds in the forecast for tonight and tomorrow, they remain out of the southwest. They pick up a little bit for Thursday, just a little bit more on the gusty side across the Maritimes. Gusts up in the range for around 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. That southwest wind is a little bit more onshore around the Bay of Fundy coastline in New Brunswick and parts of the Atlantic coastline of Nova Scotia. So those are areas, those coastal areas, where you can find some more moderate temperatures tomorrow. Low temperatures in the forecast for tonight. They're up a little bit compared to the last couple of nights. They will be mostly in the range around 13 to 17 degrees. Humidity upticking a little bit in the Maritimes. The overnight lows not cooling off quite as much. And then in the forecast for tomorrow for high temperatures in the north of New Brunswick, along with that chance of an afternoon, evening shower or thunderstorm. They're up between 26 and 29, but many communities feeling near or into the low 30s. 29 for Fredericton for tomorrow, 28 at St. Stephen, 23 at Campobello, 22 at St. John, and then 27 degrees for Moncton in the southeast. Prince Edward Island for tomorrow with high temperatures of 24 to 26 degrees. For eastern areas in Nova Scotia, in Cape Breton, its highs mostly between 24 and 27. High 20s around the north shore of the mainland. On the eastern shore on the Atlantic coastline, between 22 and 25. 25 for Amherst, 27 for Truro and Enfield for tomorrow. City centers, Halifax and Dartmouth close to 25 degrees. Near 22 at Lunenburg, but up to 26 for Bridgewater, 24 at Shelburne, and the Annapolis Valley for tomorrow on the hotter side with high temperatures near 28. In the 7-day outlook for New Brunswick, coming up on Friday, some further showers with the risk of thunderstorms, and then sunshine returns for Saturday. Mix of sun and cloud in the forecast for Sunday, looking hot again by the start of next week. A mix of sun and cloud for Monday and Tuesday, and a chance of showers on Wednesday. For Nova Scotia, coming up on Friday, the showers look like they're going to hold off mostly until the evening and nighttime hours, wrapping up early Saturday morning, followed by clearing. A mix of sun and cloud after that for the end of the weekend on Sunday, and for both Monday and Tuesday of next week, with temperatures headed up towards highs, that is, up towards the high 20s. Chance of showers on Wednesday. And for Prince Edward Island, coming up on Friday, showers with the risk of thunderstorms beginning in the afternoon on going into the evening. Clearing for Saturday, a mix of sun and cloud in the forecast for Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Next chance of showers Wednesday of next week, Todd.
Okay, we'll check in later. Coming up next, we'll have a chat with Premier Susan Holt from Muskoka on the Premier's meetings, and Katie Kelly is back on the scene.
I'm Katie Kelly. Tonight on The Scene, a star-studded story comes to life in Nova Scotia. Washington Black premieres today, starring Emmy winner Sterling K. Brown. We take you behind the scenes when CTV News at 6 continues.
Okay, so on the show tomorrow, make sure to get those keywords. We have one more trip to give away for London, England.
And around 7:30, get your shot at $100 to Sobeys. Good luck.
Welcome back. The Council of the Federation, those First Ministers meetings in Muskoka just wrapped up with discussions expanding beyond U.S. trade to include things like interprovincial tariffs, healthcare, immigration, and public safety. We're joined by New Brunswick Premier Susan Holt, who's fresh from those meetings in Haliburton, Ontario. Good to see you, Premier. Hey, I'd like to pick up on a comment you made in the news conference that you've seen your fellow premiers more in the 8 months that you've been in office than your predecessor would have in 6 years. You've met a lot, and I'm wondering, there seems to be a collegiality there, and I'm wondering how that might impact or benefit things like negotiations with other provinces.
Yeah, I think it really does give us the opportunity to build relationships and then to extend those relationships beyond just the conversations that you might have in one meeting twice a year to deeper conversations about what we can do together. It gives me a chance to sell New Brunswick to every other premier in Canada and let them know what they could be buying from us and how we can participate in their procurement needs. It allows us to find points of alignment and get to know how each other works, what their sticking points are, share policy opportunities and ideas. I think it really means we can do more faster and do more, period.
I'm going to quote you here. I like this line. You said, the comment you made was, friends similarly impatient.
Well, that was in reference to a question that one of the media outlets asked about internal trade and wondering when we would see a new internal trade agreement. And I think we are similarly impatient as premiers who want to get those barriers to internal trade gone, who want to come up with that new Canada Free Trade Agreement that is simple and clear and eliminates every barrier possible, recognizing that we're each unique provinces. We each have a thing, whether it's land in PEI or fish in Newfoundland, that is a little bit, that needs to be treated differently, but everything else has to go. And particularly in the transportation sector, we need to be able to move New Brunswick products to the people in Manitoba or Saskatchewan or BC who really want them without that truck having to go through red tape and barriers and change flags and change first aid kits. So we're all impatient for that work to be done and to bear fruit.
You signed an MOU with Premier Rob Canoe of Manitoba. How could that benefit New Brunswickers? What might they see out of that?
Well, I think anytime that we can introduce a new province to our goods and in such a way that makes it easy for entrepreneurs here who might have thought, it's not worth me learning the regulations of Manitoba and figuring out what different packaging I'd have to create for my product in order to sell it there. Or now they can take the product they're already making, the packaging that they already have, and they can send it to Manitoba to sell to new customers without that added cost or added work. So that just, it expands the market opportunity for New Brunswick's entrepreneurs without adding administrative burden or new cost.
Of course, a lot of focus the last couple of days has been on the negotiations that are ongoing with the White House. The comment that seems to be resonating is that a good deal is more important than a rush deal. That seems to be the consensus. Am I right there among your group?
That's exactly right. I think we've realized that there is a possibility to end up in a much worse situation than the one that we're in now, while we push to end up in a better situation. So it's figuring out what is that push to get a better deal, to get rid of those tariffs that doesn't risk us finding ourselves in a much worse position. And so the end result is more important than the speediness of the result.
So we shouldn't get hung up on an August 1st deadline. That could come and go.
Well, look, if President Trump has taught us anything, it's that we shouldn't get hung up on anything because he can change his mind at the drop of a hat, and a deal isn't a deal. And so that's the real challenge for all of New Brunswick's entrepreneurs is no matter what happens August 1st, are we going to be able to trust that that's then going to stay in place for any foreseeable length of time? We need to reach a place where we have some confidence that the deal that is struck is set and is going to be adhered to by the President of the United States. And it's hard to say that that's what we're going to have come August 1st.
A number of the premiers seem to telegraph that some kind of tariff will be imposed on Canada by the United States. We just saw that in the deal that was is being reported today with Japan and the U.S. There's a baseline there. Should we expect that type of look for Canada?
Well, Canada has been under U.S. tariffs for a very long time. This isn't new as much as it might seem new, and the folks in softwood lumber could speak to that. There's different tariffs that have been in place for different sectors, in some cases on and off. The goal is a tariff-free environment, certainly for softwood lumber, but also for all of the Canadian economy. But right now, thankfully, most of New Brunswick's exports are compliant with the U.S.-Canada-Mexico agreement and thus not exposed to the tariffs that the U.S. has applied. And so even their application of those tariffs, we have been exempted from. We want to continue to retain those protections, the fact that being USMCA compliant means that we're not subject to those tariffs, but we don't want new tariffs. We don't want them to grow. And ideally, we want them to be eliminated.
There was some talk in the news conference, I think it was Premier Daniel Smith who brought it up, that those negotiations of what was NAFTA, USMCA, CUSMA, whatever you want to call it, could be delayed. It was generally understood that that might be next year, but that could be pushed back. There was talk about that?
Well, I think if I can clarify from what I understood from Danielle, there was some hope that we might bump up the renegotiation of the USMCA and start to get into it now, even though it's scheduled to happen next year. So I think right now it's still on track to resume next year, hopefully early next year into the spring. But some folks have been pushing that, like, let's get at that table now. Let's see if we can get a new U.S.-Canada-Mexico trade agreement that we believe, as I said before, that the Trump administration will honor for many years. That's the kind of stability that our economy and our entrepreneurs are looking for.
Premier Holt, thank you for your time from Muskoka. Safe travels, and we'll talk to you when you're home.
Thanks very much, Todd. Talk to you later.
You bet. We'll take a time out. Lots of news still on the other side. Stay with us. In our health and medical report, if the heat outside is having an impact on your appetite, well, you are not alone. CTV's Amanda Debison tells us why. She has that and more in the midweek edition of The Lifeline.
A new study shows teens are increasingly interacting with artificial intelligence as if it were a companion, capable of providing advice and friendship. More than 1,000 American teens were polled between April and May. Researchers found more than 70% of teens surveyed have used AI companions and have used them regularly. The teens say AI has become a go-to source for personal advice, emotional support, everyday decision-making, and problem-solving. The survey found 31% of teens said their conversations with AI companions were as satisfying or more satisfying than talking with real friends. Even though half of teens said they distrust AI's advice, 33% had discussed serious or important issues with AI instead of real people. The study was done by Common Sense Media, a group that studies and advocates for using screens and digital media sensibly. Finally, if the heat outside is affecting your appetite, you're not alone. Experts say weather has a big impact on our relationship with food, and science has an explanation.
It actually has to do with the thermic effect of food. So we're not as hungry in the heat because our bodies don't want to get overheated.
This dietitian says digesting food and stockpiling nutrients uses energy, which generates heat. If your body is already hot, it may not want to create any more heat. She says even if you're not hungry, it's still important to have a balanced diet, so try choosing the most nutrient-dense foods possible, like fruits and veggies. Digestion can also slow down when you're dehydrated, so experts say make sure you're also drinking plenty of water. With Health and Medical News, I'm Amanda Debison for The Lifeline.
Look who's back. It's Katie Kelly.
Hello.
Hi, nice to see you.
You too.
We're talking about a powerful new series. This has been anticipated for a while. Washington Black making its premiere tonight, and it was filmed in the Maritimes.
Yes, partially. I caught up with some of the stars to talk about the show and their time here on the East Coast.
Welcome to Halifax. Last stop on the Underground Railroad.
Inspiration, it's larger than life. It's a story about like identity and finding yourself and being who you want to be as opposed to who the world tells you should be.
Tell me your name. George Washington Black.
Washington Black is a new 8-part series based on the acclaimed novel by Essia Dugin.
So Washington Black follows the story of Washington Black, this young, intelligent, spirited young man who's born on this plantation, and after a series of events he manages to escape the plantation in Barbados, and he goes on this larger-than-life adventure.
How do you know about this place?
Man, I used to know. Spent his life hiding runaways till the people looking for him weren't looking no more.
Rising star Ernest Kingsley Jr. stars alongside Emmy winner Sterling K. Brown.
You be safe.
Safe. But locked in a cage.
My character's name is Medwin Harris, and he's sort of the de facto mayor of this free township of black people in Halifax, and is sort of taking it upon himself to create a community and a family of folks that look out for one another. And he winds up finding Washington, flees to this place and sort of takes him under his wing, and he becomes a mentor of sorts to the young man.
What is one for?
I'm going to fly it over and across the ocean to London and win the RSL's World Expo.
Unlike many stories set in this era, Washington Black flips the script.
In terms of stories that are told with people who start on plantations, then you could call it a slave narrative of such, they tend to focus on the pain and the hardship. And I've heard from my community in particular that they're not just interested in pain and hardship, they're interested in joy, in perseverance, in transcendence, right? And I said, oh, what a wonderful opportunity to sort of flip this traditional narrative on its ear and tell a story of something that is truly beautiful. Only way black folk gonna climb this mountain is if we pull each other along.
The series was partly filmed in Nova Scotia, something both actors say made a lasting impression.
It was absolutely incredible. I think we said that the community, also the different locations, Lunenburg, Lewisburg, and then of course Halifax.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was mainly the community. Tried poutine Poutine is nice. The gravy on that, it's okay.
Yeah.
But there's so many different foods, and you said donair?
Donair.
Donair.
Pizza, the donair pizza. Yeah, it's sweet. Don't overdo the donair sauce. It's very, very sweet.
Yeah.
But it's gorgeous, too. Walking by the water in Halifax was like one of my favorite things to do. I probably walked about 5 miles a day because it's just so picturesque and beautiful. And the people, honest to goodness, could not have been more kind. Like, it was... There's a certain freedom that I felt in that space that I don't always feel in the States. It was a joy to be up there.
Truly.
Yeah.
Truly. I'm going to change the world.
And that's what you're going to do.
I think they liked it.
I think they did too. So all 8 episodes are available now on Disney+.
All right. I made the crack that you're back.
Yes.
It is festival season, which means you're never at home.
Yeah, I'm gone again.
You're on the road again tomorrow?
Yes, I'm on the road to Canso, Nova Scotia. I'm so excited because I'm going to make my Stan Rogers Folk Festival debut tomorrow.
Great. And we'll have you live tomorrow night?
Yes, I will see you then.
And Friday. See you then.
Yes.
See you in a few minutes. On the markets, the Dow Jones ended the day up 507 points, and Canadian and U.S. stocks hit yet another record today after Washington announced that trade deal with Japan. Andrew Bell has our details.
Hello there. The Toronto Composite and S&P 500 stock indexes closed at new record highs today, lifted by signs of progress on the trade front. Under an accord with Japan, U.S. tariffs on Japanese cars will be lowered to 15%. And Japan will also supposedly invest $550 billion U.S. in the American economy. Detroit car makers blasted the auto deal. Their lobby group warned, quote, any deal that charges a lower tariff for Japanese imports with virtually no U.S. content than the tariff imposed on North American-built vehicles is a bad deal. However, investors hope that a broad lowering of tariffs will help U.S. car companies too, because they have a significant presence in Canada and Mexico. The Canadian dollar changed hands at 73.55 U.S. cents, up a fraction. West Texas Intermediate oil traded at $65.25 U.S. a barrel, down 6 cents. Our latest fix on Western Canadian Select oil has it at $53.20, down 40 cents. And the TSX Composite ended at its new record high, 27,416.41, up just under 52 points. Those are your business headlines. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
No record highs in the forecast. That's probably just as well. But some beautiful weather on the way, Kalen?
Yeah, we got some hot temperatures coming up again for tomorrow. Let's take a look at a viewer picture for tonight. It's a beautiful one. Let me get out of the way so we can take a good look at it. This is a sunset picture coming in from Sampsonville in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. It was sent in by Melissa and Ricky. Well, it was actually sent in by Melissa, but the picture was taken by Ricky, who is her brother. So I want to thank both of them very much for, well, one of them taking the picture and the other one taking the time to send it in. Sampsonville for tomorrow, pretty nice looking day, mix of sun and cloud, high temperature expected to be near 24 degrees. Just a little bit cooler there compared to other parts of Nova Scotia, just being a little bit closer to the Atlantic coastline. That takes us to our day planner for the start of the day for tomorrow. There are going to be some fog patches around, mild temperatures in the morning, mostly around the mid to high teens. Moving into the afternoon, a lot of high temperatures around the Maritimes climb up towards the mid to high 20s, and in some cases feeling into the low 30s with a slight bump up in the amount of humidity in the air. Temperatures more moderate for those coastal areas, and tomorrow afternoon into the evening there will be a chance of a shower, risk of a thunderstorm for northern areas of New Brunswick. Todd.
All right, Kalen, stick around. You're going to want to hear this, our final piece tonight. They were plowing and shoveling this week in Mexico City. Take a look. A powerful hailstorm surprised people in the capital Monday night. Children were happily playing in snow-like piles. Crews were deployed to clear blocked drains and tend to the storm's aftermath. Though summer storms are common this time of year, the sheer volume of the hail was unusual. Mexico City's rainy season runs from May to October. July is typically the wettest month in that time. Look at that. Certainly looks like winter. It doesn't here, and we're happy about that. That is our look at the day here at home. We'll run it again in a moment on CTV2. Bruce is here with your late update at 11:30 after CTV National, and CTVNewsAtlantic.ca is where we update our reporting. Thanks for watching. We hope to see you right back here tomorrow night, Thursday edition of your 6 o'clock news. Till then, have a good day.
CTV News, the Maritime's #1 newscast.